if you look closely, you'll see that it's kind of laid out like a pyramid. It gets all very deep into some goofy Freemason stuff, which is outside of, I'm not as much into their symbolism as some other people are, but what is interesting is he wanted Mount Coffin, which is right there on Longview. He wanted it badly, but he couldn't get it. That's it on the bottom right. As it's being mined, the Portland Star and Sand Company came to it and started mining it for gravel. And any of you who have been on one of Randall Carlson's tours will laugh at this. It's basalt. And so if you go through that region, basalt is literally falling off of the hills around you. You could just, anywhere you walk, you'll trip over basalt. And they're like, oh, we got to mine this piece of basalt away for gravel. And it was offered to be bought by the Daughters of the American Revolution. R.A. Long tried to buy it with his lumber company. And they didn't sell it until after they had mined it down to almost nothing. That's it on the top left. There was just a little spire. And normally I'm slow to listen to the rumors of people that are locals in these small towns and stuff, but these guys are very clear that this was partially modified by Native Americans, that this area was not just, that wasn't just a hill. Some believe that there was a passage inside of it, tunnels that may have actually gone into the inland itself. What we do know is the company that mined it for gravel, they stopped at some point, said that there was nothing left worth taking, but R.A. Long was still able to get and incorporate this place into his land. When those streets, those 4 streets that make the pyramid, those were all paved with the gravel that came from that mountain. And it was very clear that this had to be a thing that happened. And one thing that's really interesting about this, if you notice, if you see the little pyramid layout here, this was decades before Robert Bauval spoke of the pyramids pointing at stars. But if you look at the 2 lines there, and that points up to this little dot, the city of Longview seems to know that the pyramid pointed at a star or at something. And again, R.A. Long, he was happy to incorporate Freemason symbolism in his stuff. This is right in the middle of that pyramid in downtown Longview. It's something that a lot of the locals don't like to talk about, but there was talk of tunnels under the city. The city was built basically with the intention of keeping the working man a worker and the rich person rich. And so they made these tunnels under the town supposedly to pipe money from one end to the other. And all of this stuff was goofy, black magic-y kind of. Again, I'm not really into that stuff too much, but I don't have to be into it to accept that somebody else is into it, right? You don't have to believe that drinking baby blood or whatever is going to make you immortal to understand that if somebody believes that, they're going to do some goofy stuff, right? So R.A. Long definitely had some weird beliefs, and he wanted to steal the mojo, like I said, and he effectively did. And he may have got this information from a number of sources. One of them may well have been, again, he was a Freemason, and Lewis and Clark were Freemasons. If you take some of the other tales of like Templars in America, for example, or Christopher Columbus discovering America using maps that he found in the Library of Alexandria, or that sourced from the Library of Alexandria, I should say. I mean, there's a lot of ways that alternate historians could potentially piece this together, but what it ends up seeming to me is it's like we have the fact that it comes from the coast, and the further we get inland, the less we see of it. It very much seems like this was something that was adopted by people from the coast, maybe from Easter Island or from some other part of the world. And it does get a little weird, a little conspiratorial, but we have other places like Mount Tumtum, which I'm not a big proponent of those kinds of things, but a lot of people do think that some of these mountains might be pyramids, and this is one, if you're into that stuff, you'll definitely see this almost every single time. And it's incorporated into a number of those theories. And I was able to go up in the area and put my boots on the ground because I do live close enough to be able to go there without it being too hard on my personal life. And going through the area is really interesting because you can't go to where Mount Coffin even was. It's like there's the Weyerhaeuser companies just got that completely marked off. The place where the Cascades were, where the bridge collapsed, you can't go see that. That island that's out in the center, if you go try to swim out to that with scuba gear on or take a kayak out there, they're going to arrest you. They've locked down all of these places. Mount Tum Tum recently was released, and the people that own it now will let people go up there and hike. But there's other things that are even more interesting. Like this picture here. This was found in the basement of the oldest department store, basically, in Longview. And the family that owned that place, the guy had built like a bug-out bunker down there, like for the end of the world. And when he passed away, the guy that was cleaning the place up found this with his back turned up against the wall. And the people that live in the area are very clear that this is part of that section of the water right there, except for that it incorporates this weird castle that shouldn't be there. But the locals that look at it are like, yeah, we know what part of the river this is. And if you look at what part of the river that is, there's this little spot there that there's not a castle there now, and I don't think it was probably a castle to begin with. Painting was done there in the 40s or 50s, and it seems to me more like the passing along of an old memory. Grandpa told me that there was this old temple there, and my history all comes from Europe, and so I paint a castle, but we can't go there still, as of now. I mean, hopefully my video on this and these presentations don't ruin that for us just before we get to go there, but you can go and check this out, and I'm planning on making a trip there to put my boots on the ground, because the thing is, there is definitely something that was up there that was hidden. It's not for certain how deep it goes, how high the technology is or what, but again, you see the elongated skulls and you always see something else with them. It's not just the cranial modification. And there's whispers of it. There's all these different little sites, and the cranial modification, again, you go anywhere else in the world and you find one of these skulls, or you talk to the people, they didn't have any touchstone to these people anymore. But that Chief Conley, he's got a list of ancestors on the internet. You can go find and speak to his great-great-grandkids. And this was done, they elongated their skulls quite a bit. But now this is Mount Coffin, and I want to spend a minute showing you guys these slides, because this is a very nice image of it, and it's pretty high definition. And you can see the basalt formation. You could see, again, the boats were long gone off of here, but you could see what looks potentially to even be a little cave, a little opening in the side of it. And you can see how, you could see how similar it is to Gunung Padang if you really think about it. It possibly is a partially modified structure, or possibly was. We have no way to really know now, except for to dig deeper into local lore and local history. But when they stole that rock, like I said, they paved the city streets in it. They didn't just pave it; they used geometry. It was very big on the sacred geometry side of things, or some Freemasonic geometry. This is the only place in the world that I'm aware of where they did this sort of thing. Normally, when you have a street, they just pave it into squares, and in this area, they paved it in hexagons and pentagons. And R.A. Long, he set himself up facing east. His statue was set facing east. It was set in a specific part of the pyramid outline. It's a very spellcrafty kind of thing. And the people that own the town now, that run the town now, they've busted that all up. They've got him facing in the wrong direction now. They've moved his statue. They've replaced parts of the street with square panels instead of the other style of panels. And again, this place was modeled like DC, and then modeled all kinds of weird stuff, as I've tried to explain as best as I can here. And the thing is, when you go through the area and you talk to the people and stuff, it is something that a lot of them are well aware of and very proud of, the heritage. For those of you who know what the 13th rose or whatever means, he's being handed the 13th rose by a little girl. From what I understand, it's like a symbol of sacrifice or of knowledge. And then there's so much more. This is a memaloose. This is not marked on any history sites. I walked around that mound in the middle. That's about 25 meters across. I walked around a circle it's about 3 feet high. I could have dug for clams and walked out of there with God knows what. But And there's several of these. There's a number of these up in that area that are completely unknown, that aren't just, haven't just been not dug into, that are, you dig around and you find that they were labeled that, and then you look in to see why, and then you run into a dead end. When I was doing the research, Google quite frequently would try to push me other directions, would say, no, you don't mean these people with the elongated skulls. No, you don't mean a Memaloose over here, you mean over there. I'm hard-pressed to call that a conspiracy, but it did feel very much like the lack of knowledge really pushed a certain direction and made these searches very difficult for me to suss one way from the other. But at any rate, I seem to have gone a little faster than I planned on. Don't forget to like and subscribe. But but at any rate, I was very impressed with the area. I'll get a little off script here. I was very impressed with it because I have people bring things to me all the time that are interesting. And this was close enough that I was able to go look at it. And when you look at things and you see that this is labeled a native burial ground, the local tribe's not calling it that, but the local tribe members 100 years ago called it that, and there's no, I mean, you just walk up to the damn thing. Stuff is weird there. If you go to a rest area in that neck of the woods, there's always these paintings about history and these little history blurbs, and when it shows Concomly speaking to Lewis and Clark, it always shows some Gunsmoke Indian. He's got the big headdress, and but that's not who he was at all. He had a big misshapen head. It hasn't been completely hidden, but it's quieted down to the point where I can safely say that the majority of you in this room didn't know that the Pacific Northwest had more elongated skulls than Peru.